Welcome back, everyone. This is Mindy Eggen for Hero Arts, and in today's video, I'm going to share with you the November 2020 My Monthly Hero Kit. I'll be going over the contents of the kit and how to use the masking dies that are included in the kit. I'll be creating 3 different cards with you today, and I'll show you 2 different ways that you can use this kit and the dies included. First, we're going to take a look at the contents of the kit. So here you'll see that you're getting a 6x8 clear stamp set with these beautiful etched images. You also have 5 coordinating dies and 5 masking dies. There's also some red vine washi tape, a sequence mix, and a wintry sky ombre ink pad. Now with the masking dies versus the coordinating dies, the masking dies are going to cut right up to the edge of the image, so you're not going to have a white border around your image, and I'll show you how that works. Some of the sentiments that you're going to find on the kit are winter wishes, let it snow, I'll be thinking of you, Merry Christmas, and sending warm wishes. Now with the masking dies, you're going to want to use a masking paper. In my video today, I'll be using the Gina K Designs Masking Magic. I found that to be the perfect thickness, very easy to use, and reusable, so I could use my masks multiple times. There are other types of masking papers that you can use, but this one I had found to be the best for my images. Now it's very easy to tell which is the front and the back. Obviously the front is the white, and on the back it has Gina K Designs logo. So I'm going to take all of my masking dies, which is the images, the tree, the owl, the house, the bird, and the snowman, and I'm going to die cut these first. After I die cut them, I'm just popping them out of the die. You can either tap it onto your table, or you can use a poking tool and just pop these right out. Masking your images is really great for making one-layer cards, and those are great for mailing, so there's not a lot of extra bulk to your cards. Now to start off with, I'm using a piece of Dove White cardstock that's 4 1/4 by 5 1/2. I'm first laying down one of my backgrounds so I can get an idea where that's going to be, and then I take the snowman and lay that right on top. Once I have that snowman in place, I pick that up with the door of my MISTI, and they will stick together, but you can easily remove that background and just set that off on the side for now. Since we are doing masking, we want to have our main image in the front, which is going to be my snowman. Then I can ink it up with some Hero Arts Intens-ified black ink and stamp that down onto my cardstock. Then I'm just going to carefully peel back that release paper, and you want to save that release paper because you can reuse these masks quite a few times before it loses any stickiness. Then I'll place that mask right over the top of my image. And what's really great is because these are masking dies, you're not going to have any white border around your image. Once I have my mask in place, I'm just going to push down really well to make sure it's secured to the cardstock. This masking magic is great because it does not rip your cardstock when you remove it. Then I'm going to bring my background back in and line that over the top. Now I would suggest doing this part first before putting your mask on, because the mask, it did stick to my background, but it was really easy to reattach that mask. So I'm just lining this background up. You can choose any one of the backgrounds included in the kit. I'm going to pick it up with the door of my MISTI, and you'll notice here that everything wants to stick, but that's all right. So once I kind of carefully peel that back, I'm going to just take the mask that's stuck to my stamp set and place that right back over my snowman. So I would just suggest, like I said, doing that background first and then placing your mask on top. Once I have that mask secured back in place, lined up over my image, I'm going to stamp my background in Dolphin Ombre ink pad. You can certainly use the ombre ink pad included in the kit. Unfortunately, I didn't have that on hand at the time. The Dolphin one has just kind of a really nice light blue, purples, and pinks. And I like to take a look at the ink pad and keep the lightest color towards the bottom. Then I'm inking that up, and I'm ever so slightly going up and down, and not a lot. I just wanted to shift it enough so that the colors blend together and I don't have a really stark line between the different colors. Now the key to this is you really want to give a good push right in the center where that mask is going to be. That's going to apply the ink all the way up to that mask. You're not going to leave any line around it. Now I kind of missed the line at the bottom of my scene there a little bit, so I'm just going to tilt my ink pad and ink up that bottom edge only with that light pink, and then I can re-stamp this. Then I'm just going to take my tweezers and I'm going to just carefully peel up this mask, and you'll see what a perfectly masked image this is. This came out just amazing. Now you can leave this image as is, but I decided to add a little bit of color with my copic markers. You can use any coloring medium that you have. I'm adding a little bit of green to the scarf, coloring in the buttons on the front, the nose, a little bit of red for the hat, some pink cheeks because it's cold outside, and then I'm adding some light blues right over those artist drawn lines. So not a lot of color, but it just matched really well with the snowman in the background. Then I can load my card back into my MISTI, and I'm going to add one of the sentiments from the stamp kit, and this one's going to say "Let It Snow," and I'm stamping that in the intensified black ink. That is our first card we created with the kit. Very easy, clean and simple, and one layer card, so great for mailing. So I'm going to make one more card to show you again the steps that I took using a different background and a different image. I'm lining up that background first about where I want it on the cardstock so I know exactly where to place my actual image. Then I could just peel off that background, and I'm going to ink up the owl this time in the black ink. I love these etched designs, and you could certainly stamp these in any type or any color of ink pad. You could also add coloring to these images with copic markers or any other type of medium. Once I have my owl in place, I'm adding that background in first. Then I'm going to come in and I'll bring my mask in. This was just the easiest way so that my mask wasn't sticking to my background. Now for the ink that I'll be using for this background, it's going to be another ombre ink pad. I love the ombre ink pads. I think they are great for adding multiple colors to your scene without a lot of work. And this one is the Mint Julep to Emerald Green. So I'll have a transition of light green to dark green. Now, a couple of key elements I think in getting a really good stamped image is really making sure you're pressing down right where that image is, and also the type of masking paper. You can experiment with the different ones you may have on hand or from different stores. I had found the Gina K Designs Masking Magic just had worked really well. It was the perfect thickness. It wasn't real thick, and I had a great impression from everything. I had removed the mask there for just a moment to show you what the owl looked like in our image. I love how that black stands out against my colored background, but I forgot I wanted to add this branch. So since I want the branch to be behind the owl, I put my mask back on top of my owl. That way the owl will be in front, and then I will have my branch in the background. Then I can ink that up with the intensified black ink. Make sure you're pushing down really well, and then I can remove this mask. Now another thing I had experimented with off camera, just to give you an idea, is I also had stamped these backgrounds on colored cardstock using the sparkle embossing powder, and then die cutting out my images, which I'll show you in just a moment. So that's another idea if you're looking to expand on your designs, and this one's just another really clean and simple card. Now, if you wanted to use these as actual die cut images to add dimension to them, I suggest die cutting the image first from cardstock. Then I'm laying that negative piece into my MISTI tool, and I'm lining up the image right in that negative space. I found this to be the easiest way to do it because my stamped image kind of locks into place in that opening. Once I pick the image up with the door of the MISTI, then I'm coming in and placing my die cut piece back into that opening. I think it's a lot easier to do it this way because the masking dies cover so much of the area. It's really hard to line up your images with the die. So I do recommend die cutting first and then doing the stamping. And then just now inking this up with the black intensified ink. And I'm going to repeat those steps for this branch that I wanted to use for my bird. Now I'm actually recreating a card that I had created for my countdown post. So now after I had lined up my stamp image into that empty space, I can pick that up with the door of the MISTI again, put that die cut piece back in, and then ink this up in any color ink that you choose. Then I usually just take my tweezers to pop these right back out of that die cut area. For my background, I have a piece of the Dove White cardstock, and I'll be using dusty blue ink. I'm going to be using a blending tool to apply the ink. I want this to fade off into white, so the darkest is going to be on top, and I'll fade off into white towards the bottom. So starting at the top, blending off from my cardstock and then blending on. And if I ever need to reapply ink, I'll typically start from the top and work my way down, just getting a lighter hand as I get further down the cardstock. I think these images stand out really well against soft backgrounds, especially if you're going to be stamping in the black ink. Now to add a little bit more interest to my cardstock here, I'm taking some of the white Glimmer metallic ink, adding a little bit to a block or onto your craft surface, and then I'm going to spritz it with water a little bit, mix it up with a paintbrush, and then I'm just tapping my paintbrush all over that background, and this is just going to add some really nice white shimmer speckles to my background, so just a nice sparkle and also kind of resembling a snowy background. For my sentiment, I am using Winter Wishes, which is off of the stamp set included in the kit. I'm going to be stamping this on cherry cardstock using some embossing ink, so I prepped the cardstock with an anti-static powder tool, inked that up, and I'm stamping it twice to make sure I have a really nice impression, and then I can sprinkle on some white detail embossing powder from Hero Arts. I'll tap off the excess, and then after my heat tool is nice and hot, I'm going to bring that over and melt the embossing powder so that white just really pops off of this cherry cardstock. For the assembly of my card, I'm adding my ink blended panel to a piece of Dove White cardstock. My ink blended panel is cut to 3.5 by 4 3/4, and this leaves such a nice great white margin around my center point of my card. Then I can add my die cut images with some precision glue. So just adding little dots to the back of that branch, kind of dabbing off with my finger, and then I just have that sentiment as a placeholder. It's not glued down yet. I did decide to add some foam squares to the back of my bird. You could also add just pops of color if you wanted to color in the beak or even the body of the bird. And I'm also adding foam squares to the back of my sentiment to pop that up just a little bit. That's going to finish off my third and final card of the video. I hope you found these tips helpful when you are creating with the November 2020 My Monthly Hero Kit and using the masking dies. Thank you so much for joining me today, and I'll see you next time.